Today I'm going to make a series of short videos going over cell membranes and how material crosses that cell membrane. This first video is going to be dealing specifically with the structure of the cell membrane itself. As you may already know, the cell membrane is made of a lipid bilayer. Now that lipid bilayer is made up of these lipid particles which have a polar head and a uncharged nonpolar tail. Okay. The entire composition of the lipid bilayer is mostly nonpolar. This polar head interacts with the liquid on either side of it. Also, embedded within this lipid bilayer are peripheral and integral membrane proteins. Now, I'd like to talk specifically about 4 types of integral membrane proteins that are important for transport. We have pores, channels, carriers, and pumps. Okay? The pores are open. They allow things to pass through them constitutively all the time, okay? Channels also allow things to pass through them as long as their gates are open, okay? And they can have a gate on one side, they can have a gate on both sides, they can have a gate, it doesn't really matter, but they're gated. They have a way to prevent things from actually going through. Carriers actually will interact with their substrates, okay? So this, for example, if this were transporting sodium, the sodium would actually interact with this part of the carrier before it moved the rest of the way through, okay? Pumps are kind of similar. They're going to interact with their substrates as well, but they will require hydrolysis of ATP to function. So they require that as their energy source. These 4 can be broken down into 2 classes, okay? So we have our passive and our active transport. Passive means it does not require energy, that the molecules travel down their concentration gradient. What that means is that the molecules are moving from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. If there's more of the solute inside the cell, that means it's moving from inside the cell to out of the cell. Or if it were more highly concentrated outside the cell, that would mean that the solute is traveling from outside the cell to inside the cell. Okay. The 3 that are part of this passive transport are pores, channels, and uniport carriers. Uniport carriers transport only one solute in one direction. Okay. We also have 3 that are active transporters. We have these pumps, which makes sense, right? They require a hydrolysis of ATP. Okay, that's their energy source. And then we have symport and antiport carriers, which are also active. They're called secondary active transporters. And the way these work, they transport one molecule along its concentration gradient, providing the energy for the other molecule to move against its concentration gradient, okay? In symport, both molecules, the one moving on its concentration gradient and the one moving against, they're both moving in the same direction. In antiport, the molecule moving in its concentration gradient and the molecule moving against its concentration gradient are moving in opposite directions, okay? Now, I'll move on to the next video.